You
live,
and
yeah,
I.
watching you, me
Okay.
and you, because I don't want it where the screen is so crowded, and then, and maybe I'll change it, but typically yeah. Okay, go ahead and start this. All right. Let me pull up the chat. All right, here we go. All right, students, welcome to our first Leading Lady series with the amazing Taylor. And Taylor, I want to pronounce your last name correctly. Hurwitz?
Hurwitz.
Hurwitz. Taylor Hurwitz. She is a digital designer, and we're honored to have her. Actually, this is our first Leading Ladies series, Taylor. So you are
Oh,
our inaugural guest. And just to give you all a little bit of a brief bio about Taylor, Taylor is a digital designer and creative lead with experience in creating brand identities. That is important. Brand identities, digital experience, and providing art direction for global brands across industries ranging from beauty to technology. She has created and led advertising campaigns for brands such as Essie, Neutrogena, okay, Elf Cosmetics, Rimmel London, Hulu, Kellogg's Fruit Loops, one of my favorite cereals, Panasonic's, avionics, and much more. Taylor has also led rebranding and logo redesign initiatives for Elka and Baker Hughes JV Aero Alliance. So you all, let's welcome Taylor to Leading Ladies. Thank you
so
so much,
happy to be here.
Taylor. Yes, for coming on. We're super excited to have you. So before we start getting into the questions, let's just start with the foundation. What is a digital designer?
So, many moons ago, when I went to college at Syracuse University, I made a point to go to their communications design program. It's an amazing program where you learn to be a designer, and that's all aspects of design. Um, I was trained in everything from branding, experiential design, 3D design, making models, graphic design. And then as I was, gearing up to go into the real world, I really saw the way that things were moving in social media and also website design. So made a huge focus onto digital design and only focus on like getting jobs there. And digital design to me is all things, anything from social website design, the logos you see on a computer, using Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, all the programs, Figma, and creating everything digitally.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So it's amazing that you saw the trends, that everything was going digital, and you took your design experience and transformed that to digital. So you have a company called Sometimes Designs,
Yeah.
which is an interesting name, Sometimes Designs. Tell us about how you created that name, because one thing that we express to our students when they're starting a business, the name is important. So start with why Sometimes Design, and why did you become an entrepreneur in this space?
So I have to back up a little bit because I was right out of college. I landed a job at a big ad agency. They were like the forerunners in social media when it was all kicking off, when Instagram was starting.
Mm.
So I was always constantly working for agencies for over 10, 11 years. And at my first job, I had a boss who was constantly freelancing on the side, which means you're doing, your own personal work for personal clients on the side, but you don't really talk about it. I didn't know this. I didn't know that people did that. I didn't know that people had side hustles. It wasn't like really talked about 12, 13 years ago. Um, So I started to freelance and I got into it. I got all my clients through word of mouth. I would tell people, hey, I'm a designer. Yeah, you need a logo. I'll do that for you. $50, sure. Like any amount of money I would take. And I was just kind of like learning the ropes of that. And I was like, I need to kind of make a business out of this. But again, like people weren't really, it was kind of frowned upon to be doing outside work
Okay.
at the time. And so I saw that so many different really cool agencies in New York, like boutique ones, had like really funky names, like Red Antler, Huge, really weird ones. So, one day I was walking and I just came to me and it was like sometimes I like to do this, sometimes I want to do that. And I just really stuck. There wasn't really any big motivation, but I knew that I didn't want it to be my name. Um, if people didn't pronounce my name correctly or whatever the case was. I wanted an alias so that it wasn't really associated with me. And also it's not about me, it's about the work and it's about the design studio. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when I started it in
Mm.
2016.
Okay. So, okay, you got into entrepreneurship based on your mentor and your boss and seeing an opportunity because you already had the skill set. So why not make some extra money on the side? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip around because I did send you a set of questions, but I wanna really focus on helping these students. So being that logo design is one of your specialties, I believe.
Yeah.
What goes into creating a logo?
So a lot of things. So, there's two ways sometimes it happens. Sometimes people want a new logo from scratch. Sometimes people have a logo, but they're like, I don't like it anymore. It's been years. Let's rebrand it. So either way, the two times that I, have to create a logo for those two scenarios, I really ask, what don't you like about it? Where do you want to be? I ask really important questions. What's your target audience? If you're selling a product, what's your price point? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? And then I take all those things and I kind of go to my drawing board. I
Mm.
start mood boarding. I look at inspiration. I look at other brands and logos within that industry. And I always am like, how can we make them different from everyone else? How can we set ourselves apart? How can we look expensive? Or how can we look, like we're speaking to teenagers or older adults? Really like thinking about those things. And then color always plays a big part, but I always do logos in black and white first because I don't want someone's opinion about a logo to be swayed by color. I think black and white shows that it can stand the test of time. It could be classic, timeless, and then we add color after. So it's kind of like the method to my madness of how I get to it. I always create like 5 to 6 options or 5 to 8 options for a client. And then we do 3 rounds of revisions and we narrow it down to one. And then how we get to the final one is just, tweaking, making sure that the client's happy, incorporating any feedback and so on.
No, that's awesome. So one of the some of the things that I took is like understanding your price point, understanding your target market, and then you start off in black and white. And then how do you choose what the colors are once you start that foundation? How do you move to what exact colors you're going to choose?
Yeah. So some brands already have a color they love. If they have no idea what they're doing, I kind of pick the color palette based on like the type of product. Again, like the mood and voice of the brand. Um, if I'm working on a food or a restaurant brand, there's some colors that are just not appetizing. Like purple is a very unappetizing color, things like that. So it just depends. A lot of you'll see in the restaurant space, a lot of restaurants like flock to greens, things like that. They're or red. It's a very eye-catching color. And it just really depends. But I always show like 3 color palettes and then show the logo of their choice in that color palette and go from there.
That's awesome. So right now, you all, I have Taylor's Instagram pulled up with some of her logos. And I see the bread flour logo. I see the Some Like It logo.
Mm-hmm.
These are some amazing logos. So if you were to talk about from an entrepreneurship perspective, just your journey, what have been some of the best things about being an entrepreneur and what have been some of the challenges that you may have faced?
Yeah, so I think because I started this as a side hustle so long ago, when I made the decision to leave a corporate job and go full time with it, it was so nice and easy because I already had the foundation built. So it was super seamless and I was able to like kind of blast it into the world like that this company exists. But some of the challenges that I've faced, I think retaining clients is always like top of mind. Like, how do I make sure after I work with one client that I keep them coming back for more? So like over the years learned how to upsell and even with graphic design. So if I've done a logo for someone, if I never hear from them again, I'll contact them and be like, we should chat. Let me know if you need any other brand marketing assets. Let me know if you need to update your collateral. Ready for a website refresh, things like that. And I think just staying positive. I think it when you own your own business, it can get super frustrating. You're working double the amount that you work for a corporate job just because you always have to be on it. But it's honestly been great and no regrets leaving the corporate world. I've learned a lot. You really, really learn a lot working for yourself.
I think so too. I left the corporate world, Taylor, and I was making good money.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll have my doubts, on the road, and I'm like, but it's so rewarding to be able to make my own schedule, to as you said, learn on the journey and strengthen myself in certain areas. So entrepreneurship has been a blessing for me.
I
So
think one little thing that really helped ever since I started it in 2016, whether it was full time or not for me, was at the start of every year, I would write down in a notebook the goal number I wanted to make and the goal and the dream clients I wanted to attract. And it really,
mm,
really helped. Like, even if I just would write, like, I want to work with a jewelry brand. I want to work with I want to rebrand a gym, things like that. And it really was cool to look back a year later.
no, that's awesome. Goal setting is so important. It gives you direction. And as you were saying, you would reach out to clients that may have not, that you work with once. But when you have those goals in front of you, you then start going through, your Rolodex, or, more current, your
Yeah.
phone, and just try to figure out, how can I connect with people in this space that I'm wanting to, reach clients in. So
Like, you
um,
have to cold call a little still and like, advocate for yourself and really remind people like, hey, I'm here. I'm here. Just don't forget.
so being that, in any field, there are a lot of people that do the same thing that you do. How do you differentiate? That word is so hard. How do you set yourself apart, from your competitors in the market? What do you do?
So I think one good thing was over the years of doing digital design, I always had a niche in beauty and cosmetics and skincare, as well as restaurant
Mm,
branding, two
mm.
really different industries, two really different things. But I kind of fell into those two different industries. And I feel like the more and more I worked on skincare brands, beauty brands, restaurants, word of mouth got out and like they've put me in touch and referred me to other people within those brands. I still never say no to something outside of those categories. I'll work on, a chair brand, whatever it is, but I think finding your niche and like your sweet spot within like what you do is a really nice way to kind of set yourself apart. Because now a few people know like, oh, she's worked on so many beauty brands. She's great at restaurant branding.
No, that's awesome. So I see you all in the room. Go ahead and put your names in the chat. Put your names in the chat so that I can give you a shout out. So for those of you that are just tuning in, we're with Taylor, an amazing entrepreneur. She's our inaugural guest for our Leading Ladies series. So go ahead and put your names in the chat so I can give you a shout out, and feel free to put a question in the chat if you have a question on anything that Taylor has talked about. So Taylor, we have a series called Model Talk Tuesdays where we focus on models, but this is the first series where we're actually focusing on business, entrepreneurship women. So again, thank you for accepting our invitation. Students, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. We talked about logos. We talked about the pros and the cons of being an entrepreneur, how you set yourself apart. Kendall, I see you. Brittany, I see you. Thank you. Amira, I see you. So you all know you have to do an entrepreneurship project at the end of this class. Taylor is a brand expert. So maybe let me focus some more questions on branding. So once we get our logo together, I know that I've read Taylor, and then we get our colors together, that we should have a certain set of fonts that we use, a certain set of colors that we use, just so that we can keep the messaging consistent. So could you talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
once we decide, okay, we want to start a bakery company, or wait, being that you're in beauty, okay, we want to start a Lady Named Pearl Beauty, how do we, and we've decided on the logo, we've decided on colors, what do we do next to keep that messaging consistent?
Yeah, I think there's so many things you can do with branding next. So I always, after we do logo, colors, things like that, once we know kind of the tone of voice, so if, your brand or your makeup line is going to be super feminine, I would look for fonts with that represent that show feminine qualities. So maybe it's a serif, and that's when the fonts have like the really, really nice details. They show a little bit more elegant, things like that. Fonts exude a lot of feelings to people. You'll see when you're walking around, if you're seeing a huge bold font, you feel like it's screaming at you. If you see cursive, it feels really dainty and light and fresh. So it just depends. I always like to ladder back branding elements and especially fonts to, a company's ethos, a company's strategy, what they're trying to evoke. Like I said, the tone of voice is always super important. I think that,
Mhm.
can go miles. And also, like, thing that some people forget about is legibility. When you're trying to sell a product, I always try to think whether it's a physical product or a digital product online, you want to make sure your fonts are legible, which means like able to read it, able to see it. We have all different age groups now looking at things online. We have all different people holding products, seeing stuff, and we want to make sure scale is correct. There's so many little things that go into it. Sometimes like a color with a certain font can make it illegible. So, there's so many different ways. There's like, rules and guidelines when with a
Mhm.
website to making fonts and colors, ADA applying and things like that. So all the things we have to think about as designers.
I understand it's art, and you have to make sure that it's all cohesive. So students, okay, so we do have a question. Oh, she did talk about that. What has been your biggest design challenge? Okay, what has been your biggest design challenge? And that's from Romaine.
So I think overall, if you ever feel you have a design challenge and you like get stressed in that moment, something that's helped me over the years is some people take it as a negative, but fake it till you make it. I'll tell the client, okay, no problem. Go off on my own. And if I'm feeling like this is a huge challenge, I can't do this, I kind of will research ways to do it or figure out the best way to do it. Like there's no shame in that. So I think like figuring out what works best for you and how you're going to tackle it, even if you don't know what you're going to do in that moment. But a big design challenge. Right now I actually have one. Someone sent me a huge box, and they asked me to design it for a restaurant that sells chicken nuggets and French fries, and they are a big chicken nugget chain in
You know what?
Connecticut.
Don't make me crack up. Hold on. Go ahead. Okay, chicken nuggets and fries. Is it? You're designing a box for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, they want a new design, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't know what to do for it. They only have their logo, so I have to kind of get creative and like maybe
Yeah.
I come up with a tagline to put on the box, or maybe I come up
Yeah.
with, an icon or an illustration of chicken nuggets. So, there's always challenges, but you have to kind of sit with yourself and figure out like what's the best way to go about this and not let the client see you sweat.
No, no, and forgive me for laughing, please, Taylor. I didn't mean it's just, just the whole concept of, chicken nuggets, and that's big business because I mean McDonald's, hello, Burger
Yeah.
King. So do you have to redesign the box as well, or is it more so just the design on the outside?
The
Or
design on the
the design
outside.
of it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
don't design like how the box is shaped or structured.
Okay, thank you for that question, Romaine. I want you all to put in the chat what you think your business is going to be, what you're going to present for your business. I just want to get an idea. And while you all are doing that, let me just ask Taylor a couple of more questions. And again, I apologize for that was inappropriate. I just got to giggle really quickly. Okay. Okay, we talked about what strategies you've used to grow your business, because you talked about setting goals, as well as if you do get a client, making sure that you stay in contact with them. How do you maintain work-life balance as an entrepreneur? I think that's an important question.
Yeah, you know, when I when I left my corporate job and did this full time, I kept thinking, oh, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to have so much time. It's the opposite right now. I feel like I'm working over double time, but it's all good. Work-life balance, it's hard. I think, I try to make a schedule for myself. You have to keep yourself super disciplined. So like working out in the morning, getting up early, focusing, if I'm working from home for myself, I really try to focus to be sitting at my desk 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever it is, and then forcing myself to get out, do stuff, run errands or get fresh air. Um, it hasn't been bad, but you definitely, you're constantly thinking like, you know, I have to keep up with, maintaining clients and making sure that the work goes out on time. I don't have a team, so it's all me. So feel like I'm always working, but always trying to balance it, especially on the weekends.
Okay, I got you. I hear you. So what advice would you give to women that are looking to start their own business?
I would say there's going to be people who tell you no. I had many people told
Mm,
me I'll never make enough money going full-time freelance on myself with my own business. Don't listen to them, because you will, you will definitely excel. But I think there's two things that always stuck with me. Um, Dress the part, even when you're
yes.
home, like if you're home working or if you're going to a meeting, like if you want to look expensive and you want to, attract really expensive clients that can pay and have the money, dress the part, look good head to toe. What you wear doesn't have to be expensive. You can still look really, really nice. Um, and then something that really has always stuck with me was, people used to tell me, "Oh, you don't have to answer that email right away. Wait to answer it." And I was like, "No.
Mhm.
I'm going to answer them and I'm going to think about it, but slowly, but I'm going to answer in a very appropriate time manner, because I think it's so important to answer people quickly. I think it makes such a difference. All my clients have stuck with me over the last like 4 or 5 years, the same ones. And I feel like because I'm efficient, I'm, great at time management, but I also answer them. I notice when people take days or weeks to answer me. So, and it kind of, it sits with you. You don't forget that.
I think that's great advice. When I used to work at Walmart, we had a 24-hour rule that you had to
Oh.
respond to an email within 24 hours. So I'm so happy that I gained that skill set. So I do the same thing. How do you stay innovative and adapt to the changes that are happening in your industry?
So in digital design, we have kind of transformed in terms programs of how we design websites, and it's moved pretty rapidly. So at first we were designing websites on Photoshop, and then it went to XD, but XD didn't really kick off. No one really used it. And then Sketch was a huge program that everyone had to learn. And now Figma is kind of taking over the world. So how I've evolved with that is, just trying to keep up and learn the programs, and it makes you that much more valuable to clients when they know you know the latest program. But I had to self-teach myself everything. So all the programs self-taught, kind of just had to roll with the punches. And in terms of innovation, like always trying to stay up on trends, go to museums for inspiration, look on design blogs. I still use Pinterest. I think it's amazing.
Mhm.
Constantly on it all day long. I think, you know, Instagram is a blessing and a curse, but there's a lot of inspiration on there. I have one account for myself where I just look at it's solely for inspiration. I don't follow friends, nothing, and it really helps because there's a lot of good stuff for design on Instagram.
Awesome. So can you give us some tips on website building and what are some things that we should be doing? Because and correct me if I'm wrong, is your website the first, you get what I'm saying, the first platform that people see your business? And if so, what are some tips that, you can give us as entrepreneurs for our website and website design?
So if you're building your own personal website for yourself, your portfolio, or for your brand, um, don't make it complicated. Use Squarespace. They've made it so amazing, so easy. My website's on that, built on that. It's affordable and it's so intuitive and easy to use now. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple, short, sweet, to the point. I would show your work, a quick blurb about it. You don't have to say that much. Always just, make sure you hit the points on like the problem, what you did to solve it, and anything else you could attribute to it. And I think for your brand, just like trying to create like an elevator pitch for yourself, which means
Mhm.
like, in 1 minute or less, in 8 words or less, what is it that you want to do? So if you're a branding agency, I want to create remarkable brands. I want to create brands that are only for beauty and cosmetic lines that change the world, whatever that is. I think it's super important. But also, aside from that, learn Figma. You will be a very valuable person in this world today.
Figma. Okay.
It's a design platform that designers and art directors are using to design websites. It's basically as if like Photoshop, Illustrator, and Sketch had a baby and made this program. It's an amazing program that it's kind of the future of website design right now. It's where things are headed. You can animate in it. If you can animate and website design, you are even more valuable. So learn Figma.
Okay, and being that some of the students have aspirations to be a model, is there anything, I know you actually did a great job, keep everything simple, but from a model's perspective, building a portfolio online, is there anything that maybe is coming to mind to you that
Yeah.
stands out that you can give us some tips on?
So no matter what the website is, today people's attention span is like 1 second, I think, or two, because we just scroll so much now. So people come to any type of website and they spend literally half a second on it. They just go like this really quickly. So I would do full bleed photos. If it's you modeling, whatever it is, I would do full bleed photos, making sure it's super immersive, making sure photos are really high resolution, not pixelated. But I think visuals, no one really wants to read anymore, unfortunately. So less is more. Keep it simple if you have to write some words about yourself or a tagline, whatever it is. But I think visuals, video really captures people as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, Taylor, I want to thank you so much for coming online with us. We have something called a pearl of wisdom. I did not prepare you for this, so my apologies, but we're going to wrap up. So if there's a pearl of wisdom that you can leave for us, it can be anything, something that may be on your mind. Our nonprofit is focused on building confidence, but we do it through modeling leadership and entrepreneurship. What would you want to close us out with? What would you want to leave us with from Taylor Hurewitz that we can, stay with in addition to all the wonderful information you've given us?
I wish I had more time to think about this because I feel like I could definitely come up with something better. But, I think for me right now, like I said, 2 months ago, someone told me you'll never be able to make good money doing this, or you'll never be able to do it full time. Never stop. Don't listen. Just keep going because it will happen. It will pay off. Always, if you want something, imagine the feeling of having it after, and it will come. So
Okay. Well, Taylor, I want to thank you for being our inaugural guest for Leading's Lady. You were truly a leading lady. Thank you for all the wonderful
thank
information
you.
you've given us. Students, make sure you complete your papers by this Saturday. We will be sharing it with Taylor. So just pick out 3 points that stood out to you from this discussion. And Taylor, I will be following up with you via email. So thank you so much for your
Thank
time this
you.
evening. All
You
right.
too.
I'll
Bye.
see you soon.